Namaste to all. I'd like to thank all the organizers, chair, co-chair, and the esteemed delegates, and all the audience. Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to speak about Ayurveda and Brazilian traditional medicines, and it's plural. You're going to see the reason why we say it's in plural. Is it a possible dialogue? Is it possible to create a dialogue? I'd like to dedicate this time here in my lecture to Shri Krishna Kumarji, and for all that I have done in Ayurveda, for all that I have studied, and anything that I do in Ayurveda, he has been my guide and my guru. Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. So when we talk about Brazilian traditional medicines, we have to say in plural because Brazil is a country that we have many different kinds of ethnicity. And we have the indigenous medicines. And when we talk about indigenous medicine, it's also plural because we have many indigenous people. And in indigenous medicine, usually it's the shamans. They will be the ones in the group to know about the medicine and to make this connection and to heal people. And there is also this connection with sacred plants like ayahuasca and others. We have our Afro-descendants, people that came to Brazil as a slave, and when slavery was over, they stayed here and they had adapted to Brazil language, etc. And they used the medicinal plants. They have a vast knowledge, and they also use for reasons, mainly Umbanda and Candomblé, two of the main religions. And they also use it as sacred and magical plants with sacred purpose. And we have the Europeans, not only the Europeans, but Europeans and other foreigners like Asians, Chinese, Japanese, and also from the Middle East. So we have a big mixture in our population, and we have all these other people that is a mixture from indigenous people with Afro descendants or Europeans and indigenous people. So we have what we call caboclos, ribeirinhos, caiçaras, jangadeiros. These are people that live by the side of the rivers. Brazil has many rivers, and or live by the beach, and so they have the knowledge of the plants that grow in that areas. And we have many other areas in Brazil with different plants. So that's the reason why we say in plural, because here we have some of the indigenous, representing some of the indigenous group, and also some representing the Afro-descendant, and also there are some pictures here representing the Europeans or the other immigrants that came to Brazil. So each of this group of people, they have their understanding of medicinal plants and understanding of healing and the process of disease and etc. So I'm going to concentrate in two major populations that we have here. That's the indigenous population. We have about 300 now. We have in Brazil about 305 indigenous peoples. That is about almost 900,000 people. And we have another big group that is the quilombolas. The quilombolas are the Afro-descendants that were brought to Brazil as a slave, and they escaped or they ran away from slavery. And they hide in the mountains or in the forest. And a quilombo is this community of these people that had escaped from slavery. So we have now in Brazil about 1,209 quilombos or 1,209 of these communities. And only 143 of them, they have rights to the land. They have the title of their land. And these people also live like the indigenous people. Is very similar the way that they live because they escaped and they had to be in hiding so that they would not be caught again. So for any kind of disease or any kind of imbalance they had in their health, they had to understand the nature around and understand what they could use. Also, they had the understanding that they had from Africa, from their countries in Africa and from their cultures, the understanding they had about the use of medicinal plants there. And Brazil is a very big country, and we have about 6 biomes. The biggest biome is the Amazon, is this darkest green. And we have different plants and different vegetation, different climates in each one of these biome. In each one of them, there is a number of species, and some of them are endemic, and others were brought from with the immigrants and adapted to the temperature and the climate in Brazil. So these biomes, like I said, the biggest is the Amazon rainforest. That's almost 50% of the country. We have another one called Cerrado, that's second biggest, is 23%, is just in the center of Brazil. And we have what we call Atlantic rainforest, that's on the coast. They used to cover Brazil from north to south. Nowadays, it was the first part that they start cutting down the trees and the forest, because that's where the Portuguese arrived first. So from Atlantic rainforest, we have only 13% left. We have one biome that's called Caatinga. That's the biome that we cannot find anywhere else in the planet. It's exclusively for Brazil. And it's a small one. It's less than 10% of the Brazilian territory. And we have one in the south that's called Pampa. That's a biome that we make border with Argentina and Uruguay. So Argentina, Uruguay, and a part of Paraguay has the same biome called Pampa. So in Brazil, it's only 2% of the territory, this biome. And we had another one that's the smallest one that's called Pantanal. It's a biome that's is flooded all year round. And also we share this biome with Paraguay, Bolivia, and a part of Argentina. So these biomes will have totally different vegetation, medicinal plants. So the people living in these areas, indigenous or the Afro-descendant, they will learn what is there and how to treat themselves and how to use for other purposes, like doing handicraft and building and food. And from this 305 indigenous people that we have in Brazil, indigenous nations that we have in Brazil, less than 20 of these nations, their medicine, their view, their understanding of medicinal plants have been studied. One of them has been the Krao people. The Krao people, they lived in the biome called Cerrado, that's in the center of Brazil. And the researcher that did her PhD studies with the Krao is Dr. Eliana Rodrigues, which is my advisor in my master's in the university. And one of the things that called her attention is that in this region, we have only 2 seasons. It's very hot all year round and very sunny. And there is one part of the year that usually in the middle of the year that it rains. That's what they call winter. So they have a very long and hot and dry summer and a very short time of the year that's rainy. So the medicines that bloom in summer, they called strong medicines. And the medicines that grow or they bloom in winter, in the rainy season, they call weak medicines, because they say that the rain will dilute the properties of the plant, the properties of the medicine. And the Kraos have a very interesting way of dealing with their medicinal plants, and the shaman is the one in charge of taking care of the whole group. And this caught my attention when she said about these strong medicines and weak medicines, how they view the medicine. And the other study that I like to say is about 2 researchers, Priscilla Yazbek and Tamara Sayuni. They are also researchers in the Unifesp, São Paulo Federal University, and they studied the medicinal plants that the quilombolas, two groups of quilombolas, two communities, that we can see here in the state of São Paulo, on the coast. It's between São Paulo and Rio State. And what they identified is that these people also, they were isolated because they ran away from slavery, and they live in an area that was isolated for long time. So there were no roads, and they had to be isolated and hidden. So what they found in this area was the medicine that they used to treat themselves, and they classified them in hot and cold medicine. And they say that the medicine that are hot, they are for treating diseases that are cold, diseases that were created because of cold, and the cold medicine the opposite. So they have this understanding of balancing the opposite characteristics of the disease, and also using the plants in this perspective. And the other thing that was very interesting is that they understand that the medication, the plants, and the dosage has to be totally individualized. They think about someone that is small or big, if it's a child, or if it's a baby, or if it's a senior person, or if it's a pregnant lady. And the other thing that was very interesting is that they always say that prevention is better than cure. And for them, that's also very important, because they are in an area that's difficult to get there and to go out from there, also because no proper roads and etc. So they use their food and also the understanding of the use of the medicinal plant as always thinking how to prevent getting sick, because curing is more difficult. The treatment can be longer, or can be more expensive, or can be more difficult. So they always think about using the food that they have around, and using the medicinal plants that they have around as prevention. And this is another study from another student. This is a student of mine that I guided her in her work in the university. And she got very interested in Ayurveda. She's not a student of Ayurveda. She's a student of naturopathy in the university that I worked. And she got very interested in Ayurveda. And we were discussing one day, and I was sharing my point of view, that I think that Brazil is one of these, mega diverse countries. It has the biggest diversity, at least in plants. And when we work with Ayurveda, why are we going to import or use Indian plants? And I think it's not a very good idea for two reasons, at least for two reasons. If the whole planet starts going to Ayurveda, and if the whole planet starts using Ayurveda plants that come from India, we put a lot of pressure in India. And I don't think India can produce with quality. I think India cannot produce enough medicinal plants even for India. So if the whole planet starts going to Ayurveda and importing plants from India, I think that's a very bad decision. And on the other hand, we have thousands and thousands of medicinal plants in Brazil, but we don't have a clear understanding of the uses of these medicinal plants, for most of them, from the Ayurvedic perspective. So we were on this discussion, and then she decided to go into research, and she chose one plant that was ashwagandha. And because ashwagandha is used a lot in Ayurveda, and she was thinking to see if there are plants in Brazil that could somehow substitute ashwagandha in the treatments, in the uses here. And then I told her, okay, so let's think about Brazilian native plants. Don't think about Brazilian plants that are here because they have adopted, but they came from outside. Let's think about the Brazilian native plants. So she found four Brazilian native plants that have lots of similarities in some aspects with ashwagandha, or it's adaptogen, or it's a tonic, or it's immune modulator, or it's a tonic for the central nervous system, or it's aphrodisiac, and so on. And then it boiled down to these 4 plants. The first Fafia is called the Brazilian ginseng, Fafia paniculata. And the second one is called Pteroptops aphrodisiaca, that is mainly from the center of Brazil, from a biome called Cerrado. And we have Marapuama, that is from the Marapuama and Catuaba, that are mainly from the north of Brazil. So it's mainly from the biome Amazon. And this was very interesting, and she got really excited about this first research she did, and we are working on continuing the research on going deeper into these plants and also in other Brazilian native plants. So I am a researcher in this center, that is CEE, Center for Ethnobotanical and Ethnopharmacology Studies, that is from the Unifesp, the Federal University of São Paulo. And I'm in a group of researchers, and in this group of research, there was no one that knew anything about Ayurveda. They actually had heard just about Ayurveda. So when I joined the group, it was very interesting to see how interested they are, and we're having now a few of the researchers going to Ayurveda now, going to studying Ayurveda also to understand how Ayurveda how could we make this dialogue, make this bridge, this conversation between Ayurveda and our indigenous or our traditional system of medicine. And Unifesp, being a public university, is very open to collaborations with other institutions from other places. Then we are trying to see if we can get to an MOU with some institution in India and other countries too, and see what is happening in Brazil. Ayurveda in Brazil is quite new. It's like 30 years or 30 years plus. And we didn't have a very organized way of studying Ayurveda for a very long time. And there are many schools here that we call schools of Ayurveda that give courses and training for Ayurveda therapists. But Ayurveda therapists in Brazil is different from the understanding of Ayurveda therapists in India, for example, because we don't have Ayurveda doctors here. So the Ayurveda therapists, we have to do everything, the consultation and prepare the medicine, do all the procedures. So we need to have a broader understanding and a deeper understanding of Ayurveda. And we realize that many schools of Ayurveda in Brazil, they have a short time course, or they don't have the proper guidance. And once again, I'm very, very, very thankful to Krishna Kumarji, because under his guidance and his inspiration, I started this school that's called a School of Ancestral Knowledge, because we study not only Ayurveda, and we bring also together our systems of traditional medicine. And we study with Indian doctors, mainly from AVP, but also from other institutions. And once a year, we take the students to India for 1 month intensive course. We went last year, but this year, because of coronavirus, we haven't been there yet, but we have continued our studies in online form using Zoom platform. So the idea of the school is that, like Simone was telling, for me it was really, really, really important, the lecture that Simone gave, because I was just thinking about everything that she was saying. How can we have Ayurveda in the proper way in Brazil? How can we have the proper training? So for me, it was really interesting to have this, to hear the path that she has been going through in Switzerland. The other thing that we have been doing here, I made this documentary that's called Ayurveda Possible Cure. That's the first Ayurveda documentary in Latin America, again, thanks to the inspiration and the guidance of Krishna Kumarji. And this so far is the first documentary on Ayurveda, and this is the first documentary of a series of 12 documentaries. And this is called the first episode because the first episode is about Ayurveda, and in the end of the documentary, we make this connection with our indigenous medicine, because after that, the second, the third, and the other episodes, we bring together these medicines to make this dialogue with Ayurveda. And this documentary was launched in 2016, October 2016, in an Ayurveda Congress in Rio, and then was launched in Brazil in Rio, and then was launched in Rosario in Argentina, in the Latin America Ayurveda Conference in Rosario in 2016 too. And has been seen by thousands of people in Brazil. I toured Brazil, I toured the capitals, making exhibitions of the documentary. And last month, this month, we had 30 days online free screening of the documentary in a platform that is a state government platform,
yes.
Together with the, yes? Yes, together with together with the help of the Consulate of India and also the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center. And the other thing that we do is, since 2017, we started in Brazil the Latin America Ayurveda Conference. So we had in 2017, 18, 19, and last year was the...
Dr. Margaret, I'm sorry to interrupt you, because we're really running against time now and the 20-minute slot is over. If you can quickly wrap up your comments in the next 15-20 seconds, we'll really appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah. So the other thing that we do to help people get to know Ayurveda is the Congress that happens every year. Last year was the first online. It was a tribute to Krishna Kumarji. And here's some pictures of the Congress, and we bring together the indigenous people also to talk about their medicines. And this is the picture that really, for me, it's very iconic, because in this Congress, there was this shaman that came from the Amazon, yes, and he got sick because of the trip, and T.S. Krishna Kumar saw him on consultation, and we made some medicine from Ayurveda given to the shaman. So Ayurveda is in the public health system in Brazil with another 28 integrative practices. And I finished my presentation with some questions rather than answers. Can we get support of the ministry for our activities? Is there interest or support from other Indian Ayurveda institutions? Can we have some MOUs? How to get the medicines equipment here? Can we have guidance to do it here? And how to make Ayurveda effectively get to the public health system in Brazil? Thank you very much. I'd like to thank all my ancestors for being who I am and being where I am. Thank you very much.